All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into deposition summaries.
Okay.
Now, I know deposition summaries, they don't exactly sound like, the most exciting topic.
Right.
But I think you'll find this is pretty interesting stuff, especially when you start thinking about cases that, span different states or even different countries.
Yeah.
So we're really talking about, how do you make sure these summaries are accurate and legally sound no matter where that deposition took place?
Yeah, it's fascinating. When you really get into it,
Yeah,
it's not just about getting the words right.
right.
It's really about capturing the true spirit of the law
It
in
is.
each location.
Yeah, and it's different everywhere, right?
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
almost like you're translating like a really complex text.
Yeah,
You've really got to understand that source language to really like nail the meaning.
exactly.
And in this case, the language is, all those specific laws and rules in each jurisdiction.
100%. And, you might think that a term like discovery,
Right.
that's pretty standard.
Legal jargon. Yeah.
Every lawyer knows what discovery is.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the actual process of discovery, how it plays out,
Right.
that could be so different from state to
Oh,
state.
yeah.
And if a summarizer, is working remotely and they miss those little differences, that could have a huge impact on the case.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where do we even begin with all of this?
So I think a good place to start is with those ABA standards,
Okay. Yeah, the American Bar Association.
right? Those guidelines, they lay down the law
They do.
about what a qualified summarizer really needs to know,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about local laws.
Right. Have you ever thought about how complicated that could get if you're outsourcing this work?
Yeah. The ABA is super clear, that a summarizer, they need a really strong understanding of that local legal framework.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking rules of civil procedure, how exhibits are marked, even just how objections are handled during a deposition.
Oh.
All that can vary a lot from state to state.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
But the good news is you don't have to do it all on your own.
Right.
The research that we've been looking at shows that, a lot of legal outsourcing services are really stepping up their game.
Oh, for sure.
They're using technology, and they've got legal experts on hand to help them deal with all these jurisdictional differences.
Right. And there's some seriously powerful tools out there like Westlaw and LexisNexis.
Yeah,
Those are giant legal libraries that you can access anytime.
that's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And, they can really help ensure accuracy and make sure everything's compliant with the local laws.
Okay, so we know there are some potential problems.
Yeah.
We know there are resources out there to help us.
Right.
But how can our listeners, people out there hiring these remote summarizers, how can they be sure they're getting the right person for the job?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is, right. And the sources that we've got for you today, they outline 4 practical strategies.
Okay.
First, you got to make sure that, these summarizers, that they have specific expertise in the, relevant jurisdictions.
Right.
Second, you got to be crystal clear about what you need from them.
Of course.
Third, you got to make sure that they're using those legal research tools we talked about.
Right.
And fourth, and this is my favorite, you got to request sample summaries.
Oh, that's a good one.
So you can get a feel for their work.
Yeah, you want to see what you're getting into before you commit,
Exactly. And when you're looking at those samples,
Yeah.
what are some things you should really be scrutinizing?
Well, I think you really got to pay attention to the terminology.
Okay.
Are they using the correct legal terms for that specific state or country?
Right.
And are they following the proper procedures?
Gotcha.
Those samples can really give you a glimpse into their process and how they handle all those little differences between legal systems.
So what are some red flags our listeners should be watching out for?
Okay, so let's say you have a case in Texas.
Okay.
A big red flag would be if that summary doesn't accurately reflect the Texas rules of civil procedure. Or let's say they're using legal terms that are common in New York,
Yeah.
but not in Texas.
Right.
That could be a sign that they're not as familiar with those local laws as they say they are.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the problems. We've talked
Yeah.
about some encouraging solutions.
Yeah.
But now I want to get to the really valuable stuff.
Right.
Our expert here has what I like to call a pearl of wisdom to share.
Oh.
And this is where things get super interesting. So tell us, what's the big takeaway here?
Well-
Why does this really matter?
The thing is, finding the right remote summarizer.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting it done.
Right.
It can actually give you a real advantage in your case.
Okay.
Think about it. If you've got a summarizer who's not a good fit,
Yeah.
they could end up costing you a lot of time and money.
Oh, no.
And it could even affect the outcome of your case.
Wow. So you're saying it's not just about convenience.
Right.
It's about avoiding those risks down the line.
Exactly. And there can be a real ripple effect. Like, let's say they misinterpret something important in the testimony because they don't really understand the local laws.
Yeah.
That could throw off your whole legal strategy.
Right.
You can miss deadlines. There could even be malpractice claims.
Oh, wow.
It's more serious than people realize.
So how can our listeners make sure they're finding someone who really gets those nuances, who really understands the ins and outs of all those different jurisdictions?
Well, first of all, don't just settle for the first one you find.
Right.
Really do your research.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look into their experience and their expertise.
Okay.
Find those providers who specifically say they're comfortable with cases in multiple jurisdictions.
Gotcha.
And make sure they've got a proven track record.
So it's all about due diligence.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions.
Right.
Like, how do they make sure their summarizers are up to date on the latest laws?
Okay.
In all those different places.
Yeah.
How do they handle those really complicated or unusual cases?
Yeah.
Transparency is key here,
Absolutely.
You want to feel good about their process.
And of course, those sample summaries, those are super helpful.
They really are. Don't just skim them,
Yeah.
Take your time. Look for clarity,
Yeah.
accuracy,
Right.
consistency in how they apply those rules.
Okay.
You want to see proof that they understand those subtle differences we've been talking about.
So it's kind of like a test drive
Exactly.
before you sign on the dotted line.
Right.
Now, I want to kind of switch gears a bit.
Okay.
I'm curious about, we've been talking about how important it is for legal teams to understand the laws in different regions.
Right.
Could this lead to something even bigger?
Like what?
Could this push for multi-jurisdictional expertise lead to more standardized legal practices across different states or even countries?
That's an interesting question.
It is, right?
I mean, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
As legal professionals work more and more across borders,
Yeah.
they're seeing all these different legal approaches.
Right.
And that could lead to a more unified legal system over time.
So instead of all these different laws and procedures,
Right.
we might start to see more consistency.
Yeah, it would be a gradual process, of course.
Yeah.
But think about it,
Yeah.
if lawyers are constantly dealing with different systems,
Yeah.
they're going to naturally gravitate towards the most efficient and effective practices.
Right.
And as those practices become more popular,
Yeah.
we can start to see things converge,
Okay.
almost like a legal lingua franca.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're saying this focus on multi-jurisdictional expertise
Yeah.
could actually help standardize the legal field.
Something to think about.
It is.
Imagine a world where the best strategies from one state
Uh-huh.
start being used in other states because they work so well.
Okay.
Over time,
Yeah.
that could lead to a much more streamlined and standardized legal system.
Yeah, and that would benefit everybody.
Exactly.
So this trend we're seeing, it's
Right.
not just about adapting to the current system.
No,
It could actually be shaping the future of law.
100%. And that's why it's so important for everyone in the legal world,
Yeah.
from lawyers to paralegals to those tech developers,
Mhm.
to really pay attention to these trends and embrace the challenges and the opportunities.
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
It is.
It's amazing how something as simple as a deposition summary
Yeah.
can lead to such a big discussion about the future of law.
It really shows how connected the legal world is becoming
Yeah.
and how important it is to think globally, even when you're working on local cases.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
Right.
We've talked about the challenges of accuracy in deposition summaries. When you're dealing with multiple jurisdictions, we talked about the ABA standards
Right.
and the solutions and strategies that firms can use
Yeah,
to navigate all this complexity.
for sure.
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I want to leave you with one final thought.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, finding the right summarizer,
Right.
someone who's really familiar with all the different legal systems and jurisdictions and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I want to bring it back to our listener for a second.
Okay.
Think about your own work,
Yeah.
whether you're like deep in legal documents every day
All right.
or you're just starting out in the field.
Yeah.
How might this deep dive change how you approach things?
That's a great question.
Yeah. It's all about, staying ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. I mean, this knowledge it really empowers you.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as, asking better questions when you're hiring someone.
Right.
Or just having a better understanding of what your team is up against.
Yeah. And, maybe even sparking some curiosity.
Right. About those little differences between legal systems.
For sure.
I know I'm definitely more intrigued.
Me too.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay.
Something that's been kind of bouncing around in my head.
All right. I'm listening.
So we've discussed how this whole push for expertise in multiple jurisdictions could lead to more standardized legal practices.
Right, like a harmonization of laws.
Exactly. But what if we flip that idea on its head?
Okay.
What if instead of everyone becoming more alike, this actually leads to more specialized expertise?
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Right. So you're saying that as the legal world becomes more interconnected, it could also create a demand for, niche expertise.
Exactly. Because if we do start to see more standardized procedures,
Yeah.
that could free up legal professionals to focus on those really tricky specialized areas.
Right, where those little differences between jurisdictions become even more important.
You're painting a picture here of a legal landscape.
Where you have this foundation of shared practices.
Right.
But then you also have these experts who can handle the really nuanced stuff.
Exactly. It's kind of like in medicine.
Yeah.
You have general practitioners, and then you have specialists.
Right. You need both for a healthy system.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe this specialization could even lead to some totally new approaches to legal problems.
Yeah. Because the more we connect and share knowledge, the more potential there is for creativity and innovation.
Okay, so on that note of exciting possibilities,
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Right.
I want to thank you for joining us on this exploration of deposition summaries.
It's been a pleasure.
Multi-jurisdictional law.
Yeah.
And the potential future of the whole legal field.
Absolutely.
It's been a great conversation.
It has.
And I hope you, our listener, have gained some valuable insights along the way.
I hope so, too. In today's legal world, knowledge is power.
It really is.
The more you understand those little nuances of different legal systems,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to navigate this increasingly complex world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Wait.
So until next time, keep those legal minds sharp.
Right.
Stay curious.
Absolutely.
And remember, the future of law is out there.
It is.
Waiting to be shaped.
We're shaping it right now.
That's right, we are. Oh,